tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 3Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast with your host, the old salty dog, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, none other than Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, man. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and look forward to a great show. A lot going on. There's never a lack of things to talk about.
Yeah, I had a good weekend. I did not go fishing because it was a bit breezy out there, so we didn't make it out there. But I had a great time anyway. I want to make a quick public service announcement. Of course, you can see by behind me here that I'm at the home, really become the home of the Florida Gators. The coach
really
Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach, Gridiron Grill, and I'm in the Helmet podcast room. But you know, there's all kind of crazy internet rumors and stuff, and of course about coaching. But I want to say something really quick that came out about Tim Tebow, who is like, you know, the number one Gator, so to speak.
He sure is.
First of all, he came out and denied he's under consideration for head coach. But the interesting thing politically is there was this big internet rumor out, posted all over Facebook and other places, that he had announced that he's running for lieutenant governor of the state of Florida. And everybody, even people that I know are politically astute, were all over it. Now, I wish he was running for lieutenant governor, but here's the deal. It's fake news because you don't run for lieutenant governor in the state of Florida. It's like president, vice president. You have a nominee of whatever party, and they choose their running mate. Now, in places like Virginia, you actually run for lieutenant governor. So just so people know, as much as I'd love to see Tim Tebow maybe one day actually be governor, you cannot run for lieutenant governor. So it's just fake news. I just want to put that out there.
No, I think that's a great public service announcement. I'd love to see him run for governor. That or a higher position like University of Florida football coach.
I hear you, man. It pays. There's a bunch of coaching. We're not getting into sports, but I don't know if you saw it, but overnight, Kelly got fired at LSU. So
sure did.
It's a lot of craziness out there. But speaking of some craziness, of course, politics, we're going to get right into it here. I'm using as a template here the Breitbart publication. But Donald Trump is on one of his world tours, so to speak. He's all over Asia right now, and he's actually going to be meeting in Japan with the first female prime minister they've ever had. But let me read you kind of the headline here, and I'll turn it over to you, Ted. President Donald Trump signed a historic peace agreement between Cambodia and Thailand, as well as trade agreements with Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia upon arrival in Kuala Lumpur, which is in Malaysia, on Sunday. Donald Trump is the president. He's the peace man. It's unbelievable.
He sure is. He sure is. And, you know, it's amazing. He's going around on a world tour, I guess you would call it. But unlike Obama, when he went around, it was the apologetic tour for America's past terrible history and indiscretion and repression and all that other garbage that he talked about. And who's he go see first is, I think it was Hugo Chavez, wasn't it? If not, probably. The Saudi Arabia where he bowed down.
Yeah, where he bowed and kissed the ring, so to speak. But I guess you could call it the Peace Through Strength and Economic Prosperity Tour, because Donald Trump is, you know, he is has a big stick and he's not treading lightly. He's walking right in there, and it's an incredible. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim praised Trump's leadership in the peace effort, saying the world needed more examples of such leadership toward peace. I mean, we talked about this last week. Is DJT, is he the GOAT or what? He's certainly becoming that. He's getting praise from these leaders saying we need more Trump, not less.
That shows you how starved people were for leadership. You know, America's been since World War II, post World War II, they've been the de facto leader of the world, and it was by, I don't want to say by design, but it was by actions. And we brokered peace deals all over the world, with the different treaties after World War II. And then we led. We led in the economy. We led in the military. We led in education. We led in so many things. The American dream. It was set a standard that people wanted to emulate. In fact, Malaysia and Indonesia, they followed the American form of government. Indonesia adopted our form of government, giving rights to the citizens, unlike Tim Kaine out of Virginia says your rights come from government, not from the Constitution or from a creator. And this is the difference, because when Trump leads and America is seen as leading, other countries want to embrace him. And it's just like you see the outpouring of people coming out to him, and you're seeing more world leaders want to meet with him. Whereas with Biden, they could care less with Biden and Harris. And I want people to understand this, that Kamala Harris is considering running again for president. We don't want to take the country back. And it was funny because her slogan was, we don't want to go back to the old. We want to go forward. No, we don't want to go back to your old, for sure. So Trump is doing what he needs to do, and it's going to make America safer and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the conversation there, you just mentioned Indonesia a couple of times. And, people need to understand how important that was that Indonesia was at these peace agreements with the Middle East, because people tend to think of course, Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq and all of that. But the biggest Muslim nation is by far Indonesia. And the fact that they were primary in that, and praising Donald Trump is an amazing feat right there.
It really is. And we got a great relationship with them. I think it's a country of 265 million people, 90+% are Muslim. And, they're a good, strong friend. I don't know if we go to the allied status, but there's an organization called ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Nations. I was fortunate to be able to speak to that whole organization, and it's 10 nations, and we're the only non-Asian nation that is a member of that. And it accounts for 4.5 billion people, and it's about it's over $4 trillion in trade. And so it's a very important economic partner, that bloc. And, it's also a way that we can counter China by having more favored trade status with the ASEAN bloc of nations. And this ties into foreign policy, and not to block China out from anything, but we want us to be the preferred neighbor. And just by the freedom and democracy and the things that we represent and stand for that those other countries want, they will block the heavy hand of Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party out. So it's a very important thing. This is great that President Trump's there, and I applaud him for it.
Yeah, actually, and you're right.
And in the process, doing peace deals.
Yeah. By the way, just make peace everywhere, But
yeah.
The president is absolutely keeping the pressure on Xi of China. And it was interesting. I was listening to, as you know, my public service, so you don't have to like Morning Joe coming in today, right? So they were talking about the tariffs and all of this and blah, and the advertisement that came from Canada that quoted Reagan and all that kind of stuff, and that whole controversy. And what really stood out to me was how you have these liberals, Democrat liberals, now anti-tariff. And I'm not even talking about, we don't even need to get too deep into tariffs one way or another. We've talked about it a lot. But the fact that they are anti-tariff, which means anti-quote protectionism, literally they were using that phrase, Ted. I never thought I would hear Democrats, because if you think about it, the trade unions and the unions in general have always been about protectionism, and that's always supposedly been a cornerstone of the Democratic Party. But now the Democratic Party is opposed to protecting union jobs and other jobs. It's amazing how he's flipped the script on them.
Oh, it is, and it's the typical. It's good for thee, but not, or it's good for you, but not for thee.
Yeah.
And they'll just change as long as it benefits the Democratic Party, and you're seeing it. You're seeing a destruction of the Democrat Party, and they're embracing anything that they think will bring in more people. And we'll talk more about that in the show. But it's just like, oh, we love all these socialists and communists. We want them in our party. And it's the same way they stand on these tariffs and all that. Keep in mind, we were like 126. Uh, I can't. Is it billion? Trillions? It was a lot. It was the largest trade deficit in the world, and it's been going on. You don't get to
It's
that by
trillions. It's trillions.
overnight. It's trillions.
We don't do billions
Yeah,
anymore,
well,
Ted.
that's a rounding error, but it's the largest in the world, and you don't get to that by just from one administration to the next. It's through benign neglect, ignorance, or just whatever reason. You get to that, and you can't carry on a country economy that way because you're running jobs out of here. And that's what we saw. And so I am happy these tariffs are coming. They're painful. They're going to be painful, but I'm willing to pay more for some products to adjust this because you're going to get the attention of these other countries. And Trump has done that. Look what he did with Canada. We're going to have a trade deal, and they run this silly commercial about uh, parsing out things they said Reagan said. And it's not true.
Yeah.
And of course,
Well,
now they're back at the negotiating table. And that's what these other countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, they all see this, that you better not mess around with them because is flippant as he seems to be, he's serious about moving forward. And I think he's got their attention for sure.
yeah, well, the president is going to be meeting, obviously, I think today with Japan. He's going to be meeting. This is a 5-day trip with South Korea, and then having his second meeting with Chinese Premier Xi. But he said this article says the meeting may be the last chance for a trade deal before the U.S. Supreme Court hears a challenge to Trump's emergency tariffs, one likely to succeed. They're saying, and that's certainly a valid point. But and let me just say this, Ted, and I'll turn it back to you. I'm the concept of free trade versus fair trade. I think everybody should be for free trade, but the reality is that we haven't been involved in free trade since way before Reagan. We've been involved in unfair trade where
We sure have.
we've basically been I mean, we literally are the gold standard for markets, but we've been treated like a redheaded stepchild when it comes to that kind of stuff. No offense to them, but so Donald Trump is just trying to bring us to actually free trade. Fair trade is really what he's trying to do, and the only way we're ever going to get there is not through the benevolence of other countries. It is through tariffs. That's the only way we'll ever get to actually fair trade. That's what my thoughts are.
No, several things on this. One is, this goes back to George Washington and the founding of the nation. We're for honest and open trade with all nations, fair trade with all nations, and that's what it really needs to be. It's a tit for tat type of thing, and if you distort that, then you get these discrepancies. The other thing that's so important about this trip that he's going to ASEAN, I can't stress the importance of the ASEAN bloc of nations. By 2050, they said over half of the world's population will be in a dinner plate size that encompasses India, Japan, and the ASEAN bloc of nations. And it's a very important trading bloc, but it's also a very important liberal type of democracy governments. And I can't overstress that because who's the redheaded stepchild there? It's China, that very authoritarian. And you've got countries like Cambodia that is kind of a vassal state of China. But if they knew China was weakened, they would come to our side. And so for Trump to be there, this is a way of putting pressure on Xi Jinping when they go into these negotiations, because Xi Jinping has had the upper hand with the rare earth minerals and the pharmaceuticals, and they're educating more students around the world than we are, which is really going to be a significant impact 5, 10, 15 years from now, because those students are going to be world leaders that are going to be thinking like Xi Jinping. We don't want that. So for Trump to be there showing America's presence is there, is because we went to these countries. They said we haven't seen anybody from America from the last two administrations, and all just showing up. And that's one of the tenets of success is 85, 90% of success is just showing up. And he's doing that, and it's carrying our nation forward. And then the ultimate thing is it's going to be good for our economy. It's going to be good for our national security. And it's going to put pressure on Xi Jinping and China and the Communist Party to change the direction they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know this is considered almost sacrilegious to the left that are trying to take over our country, but I think we should all pray for President Trump to be successful in this trip, especially because so much is on the line in this. And I pray that he'll be successful. And I want to play a video, and then we'll go to commercial break. But if you
but before you do that,
go ahead.
That is so significant because a person by himself cannot do this. Any of us cannot achieve great things if we don't have that divine guidance and intervention. And we all need to pray for not just him, but for this nation and other world leaders that we do the right things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to show, because if you're wondering how Donald Trump is perceived over there and received, of course, we saw back when he went to the Middle East over in Saudi Arabia a few months ago, how they greeted him in Qatar and all that. But I want to show you how he was greeted in Malaysia. And I want people to think when they see this video, I want people to flash back to when Biden was president, the last time we kind of saw him at a celebration for Black History Month where he was going like that. Look at President Trump, how he is being, remember that?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, he was like,
oh, God.
He was like, yeah.
How embarrassing for him and his family, for Jill to put him out there. I mean, this guy was heavily medicated, or I don't know. And for representing America, I mean, that the whole party that propped him up should be embarrassed. Not just embarrassed, they should never be in power.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep that picture in mind, Ted, when you see how President Trump is received and how he reacts to this. Check this out. We'll come back real quick. Check it out.
Yeah, I'll watch this.
And there you have it, Ted. Man, how am I doing with
when I was
President
a kid,
Trump? You got to love the guy, man. Come on now.
When I was a kid growing up during Halloween, that song came out called the Monster Mash. This is Trump. We should name it the Trump Mash. I don't know what you call it, but it's a signature dance move that he has that the world's embracing.
Absolutely. It's pretty cool. I mean, to me, you could be opposed to Donald Trump all you want, but you got to admire the spirit of the man. I mean, otherwise you're just not being honest. And people are reacting to him all over the world. It's just amazing.
You know why? Because he gets results. May not be favorable results for them sometimes, but he comes out and he'll articulate a position when he's in negotiations, and it may be one that flips back and forth. But the idea is there is pressure, and he's calling these people to task that they have to change the way they do business with the United States.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about transitioning. I'll just put that out there, and people can
I'm not transitioning, John. I'm not going to do that.
We're going to talk about some transitioning issues, but I hope you'll sponsor. If you want to be a sponsor of our show, look at the little tagline that says "Contact Freddie." We really need your support there, and please support our sponsors and like what we're doing and share what we're doing. Take us to break, Ted.
We sure are. We really do want you. We're growing. We want to get your name out there, help us grow, and we appreciate it. And let's go to the commercial break there, Johnny. Yep. Here's Johnny.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Meldon Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators.
The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company,
Shoot GTR,
On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Ward, that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth!
All bees poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. Wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
And we're back to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcasts, with yours truly, the old salty dog, John Martin, and the captain of our ship, Mr. Ted Yoho. Well, when we went to break, I kind of threw out there that we were going to talk about transitioning, and I knew that Ted kind of up there, he's going, now, I don't know where you're going with this, John. Well, the transition I'm talking about is a question that I came up with, and we're going to use this article as a template. But is the Democratic Party transitioning to becoming literally the Communist Party? Because, and I'm not talking about all Democrats, I'm talking about the party apparatus and the leaders themselves. I believe that they are. What are your thoughts on that, Ted?
I say absolutely they are, and it's very evident in what they're doing, John. You look at who's running the parties that Ocasio-Cortez came out of, and Madani, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, Presley, they're all falling in lockstep with the guy that is running the Democrat Socialist Party of America, or the Democrat Party of America. They're socialists, but they're really communists. But they're afraid to say that because they know that's not a popular thing. But you look at their policies. Look at the policies. I mean, this goes back to Obama, and he can fit right in there. Nobody needs to make more than $250,000 a year. So they want to limit what you make. And they talk about the American dream. This new generation can't reach the American dream. That's a bunch of BS. Anybody in America can reach the American dream, provided we have opportunity. Opportunity comes from the Constitution and our constitutional Republican form of government. We're not a Democrat government, or a democracy. We are a democracy, but that's not the form of government. That's the process we do to keep this country. So the American dream comes from opportunity. You can't have the opportunity to reach the American dream if you've got people like Obama saying you need make more than $250,000 billion. Well, I disagree with him. I keep that as a goal. I'd love to be a billionaire. Um, and then if you're a landlord, we're going to put rent controls on you. If I'm in the business of selling groceries, now I got to compete with a government grocery store. I have the government competing against me in private enterprise. And so they want to take over all that. They want to take over the forms of production. And so keep in mind, anybody that supports these people, you are supporting people that are going to steal your future and your children's future. And it has never worked anywhere long term. I mean, maybe initially, but if you want to look at Venezuela, that came in, socialism came in with Hugo Chavez. The country's a disaster, falls into despotism and authoritarianism. Look at Cuba. This is what these people want to leave the blind people following. And they need to wait. They're going to be in more misery or thought possible. It really is.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, you mentioned a figure there about what Obama said, nobody about $250,000. That's an interesting number because there's this guy named Frank Llewellyn. I think that's how you say his name, Frank Llewellyn.
Yep.
And people may not know who he is. Well, Ocasio-Cortez, her campaign literally cuts him a check for about $1,200 plus some other every month and has been for years. This guy ran her stuff when she first ran and unexpectedly won that Senate seat. And she's paid her campaign is still paying this guy over $250,000. Let me tell you who he is. He's the former national director of the Democratic Socialists of America, aka really communist, who ran the organization for over a decade from 2001 to 2011. But now he's on the continuous payroll of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You can look all this stuff up. It's all fact. What are your thoughts on that, and what does it mean that he's still that closely associated, unapologetically so, with Ocasio-Cortez?
Well, he was the former national director of the Democratic of America. That who they're associated with. They're with communist organizations all over Europe. And they've brought that here, and they've got about 90,000 members. But think of how effective those 90,000 members have been. They're the ones responsible for Zohran Madani. They're the ones for Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, Presley. They're the ones that are pushing this mayor in Minneapolis who's from Somalia. Nothing against Somalians, but his ideals are anti-American ideals. Their mayor up in Minneapolis, Mayor Frey, he was the one that came out after the shootings. As tragic as that was. And he is a super, super liberal progressive, but he's not progressive enough for the mayor and the people of Minneapolis. They want to elect this really radical guy. And the transitioning, the Democratic Party has transitioned, and they're a lost party. And, they'll get in power if people aren't educated. That's what our goal.
Well, even beyond
a good American.
I'm sorry, we're still having some sound problems with you, Ted. But even beyond communism, the Martin, who no kin to me, who's the head of the Democratic Party, he literally said, when asked about the term globalizing infantata and all that with Mandami, literally said, and I kid you not, that we have a big tent and we want to include everybody, including people who are known terrorists. When you verbalize globalizing infantata, you are literally not just attacking Jews, which is bad enough. You're literally saying that you're for wiping out all non-believers in the fundamental Islamic faith. And so the chair of the Democratic Party said we need all people in our big tent. I mean, so they're willing to take everybody. Communism is probably the least of our worries in that sense.
Yeah, really, because the ship is sinking. I mean, they'll take help from anybody, but kind of help they're calling is not good help. It's not doing anything to make this country stronger. It's all for making their ideology stronger, which is antithetical to the America that you and I grew up, that we want to make stronger and pass on to our next generations.
Yeah, well, this guy Llewellyn that's played
Llewellyn?
that was the head of the DSA operations. He actually wrote the playbook, so to speak. He literally created the operations manual for them, and that is what Mondami is following right now. That is what Ocasio-Cortez is following right now. So this guy, it's not like he's Karl Marx and he's been dead a long time or something. He is still active, and they're still paying him, and he literally wrote the framework that is now taking over the Democratic Party.
Well, you brought up a good point there because that is what's going on today. But you go back to the Hillary Clintons when she was going to school. She was a student of thought of Bill Ayers, the known terrorist here in America, who admitted he did that, but he got off scot-free. He says guilty as sin, but free as a bird. So she listened to Clower Pivens that says the way you want to destroy America is overload their welfare systems. Look what Lyndon Johnson did with the Great Society. Look what the Democrats are doing today. They want to extend subsidies to people making over $300,000 for Obamacare, which was a government takeover of health care. And so this whole movement's been going on for 20, 30, actually longer than that. And then you have the Clower Pivens, Bill Ayers, and there's one other group, and I forget who it is, but look at what happened, the infiltration of our colleges and universities with professors who were taught by people that Hillary Clinton was taught by. And they're the ones teaching our kids. They're the ones saying how bad America is. And, for anybody that thinks America is bad, go to a foreign country for a while and come back and tell me how bad America is. It's not a perfect country, as we've talked about before, but we have the right, and we have, more importantly, the responsibility to be the ones that stand up and says, we're going to go this way. And that's the great thing I love about Trump. You may not agree with him, but that man loves this country, and he wants to make America first, and he's doing that. And I think we need to get behind him. I don't agree with everything he does, but I like the direction we're going.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about all these different people, and to me, they always talk about the Democrats are for the poor and all of that. Yeah, they're for the poor staying right where they are. As long as you stay
That's
where they
exactly
are.
Right.
Because if you look at communist countries, one of the richest, if not the richest man in the world is actually Vladimir Putin. They don't publicize that much, but most people that really in the know speculate he may be. But they always live on, they call that their dachas or whatever, where they live in comfort while everybody else is struggling. All you got to do is look at some concrete examples. Barack Obama, all about climate change and everything else, yet he builds a $15 million house right on the beach up there in Martha's Vineyard. You got Bernie Sanders.
Don't forget his house in Hawaii and the house in Washington.
Absolutely. And he's got one in Chicago and whatever that monstrosity he calls a library is going to be. But then you got Bernie Sanders, Ted, who literally, and this was just a couple of months ago when they were doing that oligarchy tour, when he was questioned about taking private jets everywhere because they burn tons more fossil fuels than anything else. He actually looked in the camera and said, well, I really don't have a choice because, and I'm paraphrasing, this is what he said, because I can't get where I need to be on time if I fly commercial. So you, Ted, or me, or anybody else, we can be caught up in this, flight. And my son was coming back from Mexico, and my daughter, and their flight was delayed yesterday like 4 or 5 times for like almost a day. But do you think Bernie Sanders ever gets delayed? Do you think Ocasio-Cortez ever gets delayed? That when they were doing that tour, and I get riled up about this, but I'll shut up after this. Ocasio-Cortez, when they were going out west, flew out in a private jet on her campaign money expense to a resort in Las Vegas that is literally like $5,000 a day spa, and stayed there for about 4 or 5 days waiting on Mr. Bernard Sanders to come there. These are the people that are saying they are for poor people and against billionaires when they are living the high life. That is classic communism.
It absolutely is. I mean, that's a great description, John, and that's exactly what's going on. And these people are for themselves. And again, it's that saying, "This is good for thee, but not for me." You know, they can fly around, but you shouldn't because it's bad for the climate. And you know, the American people overall will get this right, and they got it right in the last election. But it's that group of people that think they're owed something. It's the group of people that Ocasio-Cortez and the Sanders are saying the oligarchs are why you're where you're at. You know, they've taken things from you. They've prevented you from succeeding. And it's such a con job. And I don't know how those people sleep at night. They definitely don't have a conscience to think that socialism is going to be good. It's not socialism. It's Marxism, communism, period. It's wrong, and these people should be voted out of office. They should never be held in office. You know, I appreciate their opinion. I don't agree with it, and I wouldn't put them in office, period.
Yeah, well, that's why we got to educate, motivate, and activate people, because we have got to win in the marketplace of ideas. And if people aren't educated,
like to win, I'm going to keep winning.
If they don't understand what's going on, they can't make intelligent decisions. And let me just say this, Ted, I don't hate Democrats. I don't hate anybody. No. I hate what the Democratic Party that I grew up with, that my family has a long history with, I hate what they have become. And you've heard me many times say, if you don't want to leave the Democratic Party, I get it. Take your party back. I want to play this video because to me, this kind of sums up what the Democratic Party has become. And this is Governor J.D. Pritzker, not months ago or years ago, just this past week, talking about why he is so opposed to Donald Trump. I want people to listen carefully to what he's saying, and keep in mind that the Nazis and the Holocaust, because he refers to that, they killed between 6 million Jews and 9 million people overall, and of course 20 million died in Russia, not counting losses all over the world in general. But they're comparing Donald Trump and people that support him to the Nazis. I want to hear it straight from JD's mouth, and then we'll come back and you can talk about it, Ted. Listen to this.
Sure.
Taken away. People got accused of being immigrants. This is before the Holocaust really took place. People were accused of being immigrants, and then laws were passed to limit immigrants, and then people who weren't actually immigrants were called immigrants, and then it was othering people, and that led to a lot worse things. What I'm saying is that this is how authoritarian regimes do it. They create these kind of fake ideas that there's an enemy out there, and it could be sitting next to you at one of these tables. And so just somebody at your table that you don't like might be one of those enemies. And so let's round them up. Let's make sure that they are the subject of the laws that we're passing because we don't like who they are. That is what authoritarian regimes do. This is what happened. This is what happened. People's rights started getting taken away. People got accused of being immigrants. This is before the Holocaust really took place. People were accused of being immigrants, and then laws were passed to limit immigrants. And then
we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and there you heard it straight. And I apologize ahead of time. We've had some technical difficulties with Ted, but we're trying to work them out, so be patient. But there you have it. You have the governor of the great state of Illinois, who comes from billions himself and is probably a billionaire, literally comparing.
Oh, he's definitely a billionaire.
Donald Trump and I guess anybody who supports him to the Nazi movement, and literally talking about, the concentration camps and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, Trump, as you've heard me say, Ted, and I get fired up about this, if he's a Nazi, if he's Hitler, he's the worst Hitler ever because he sucks at it. I mean, what Donald Trump is making peace, trying to stop World War III, and literally freed the Jews over in the war between Hamas and I mean it just
Right.
works me up, Ted. It's insane. It just is insane.
I can tell you're a little worked up there, Johnny.
Because it's just
But
devastating
keep in
to
mind,
people.
it really is, and it's that narrative, and he has a voice, and it's getting out there just like the other people, like the Sanders and that whole group. They get their voice out there, and the media does not hold them accountable. So Pritzker is going after Trump because he's like the Nazis. He didn't say Nazis, but he's like Hitler going after these people and saying they're illegal immigrants. So we got to throw them out. And then they put more people into that category, and we're just trying to establish the rule of law or reestablish the rule of law in this country. We have the rule of law. It was broken and it ran amok under Biden. You know, I mean, that comparison of Trump.
Well, he froze up again right there, ladies and gentlemen. So you hang on one second, Ted, because you froze up again. But the thing that got me on that, why don't they have, because you talk about the media, why doesn't the media have the courage to actually have a little bit of pushback and say, when somebody like Pritzker spouts all this nonsense, why can't the moderator at least say, are you saying that Donald Trump is going to potentially kill 6 million people? In concert, I mean, because it's just ridiculous what they're saying. I don't know if we got Ted back or not.
No, I agree. You have my audio.
Yeah, I have your audio. Yeah.
I took the video off.
Yeah, we got your audio.
I agree
Go
with
ahead,
you.
Ted.
And so Mr. Pritzker that wants to be president, and he'll be in the primary against Gavin Newsom, another great socialist. He's an heir of the Hyatt hotel chain. He doesn't think what Donald Trump is trying to do is to get people that don't belong here out of the country, that are here illegally. He thinks that's wrong. I think we en masse should go to every Hyatt and just demand a room. Yeah. I don't want to pay for it. I have the right to have a room, because that's exactly what he's saying about these people that come in illegally. They have a right to be here, and we should take care of them. We should provide health care. We should do all this other stuff, and let's give them a stipend. And look at the disaster they did in New York with the hotels, how they put them in the 5-star hotels or 4-star, and we're paying them to do that, to stay there, giving them groceries, health care, education. But Pritzker, he doesn't want you to stay at his hotel for free. It's just a double standard. The guy's out of touch. He needs to be thrown out of office too. So wake up, America.
Wake up. Absolutely. Well, I would just say this and we'll move on to another story. I tell out there to Democrats, as I said, take your party back. In a world of Mondanis and AOCs and Pritzkers, I guess, if you're going to stay a Democrat, be a John Fetterman. That's what you
really
need to
be. Isn't that the truth? I mean, I sent you that article where he is just against what they're trying to do, and he's blaming the Democratic Party. The other thing is Jared Golden out of Maine, who's a Marine, Democrat, but he's voting against the Democrat shutdown. He says this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. So there are a few people like that, and those are the people that I hope, if you want to be a Democrat, empower these people, because that is a balance between maybe the far right, which I came out of, but I've matured since then, Johnny.
I hear you. Well, a story, we're going to move on now to another story here. This is a story, Ted, that I put on the script for Friday, and I was thinking, well, it's too bad I put a lot into it. We didn't have time for it, but it's still a big story. I mean, the headline I put on this is Trump a builder or a destroyer? Because it depends on who you listen to. I mean, Trump is obviously the builder, but they're talking about the East Wing at the White House and how he's going to build this ballroom and all. And the people are just off the chain there. I ask you, Ted, is this a real story? Because it doesn't seem to be to me, but the media makes you think like this is the beginning of the end.
I love what he's doing, and I love it because he says we're going to do this, and he does it. He doesn't wait to go through, the EPA and all that stuff. That'll all come. He's going to do it right. It'll be good for America, and it'll be just another shimmer of the shining beacon on the hill of what America represents. And you see the response he's getting around the world. I mean, for these people to come out in mass like they do, and it's for the deprivation they had under Biden for a lack of leadership. They're seeing that under Trump, and I love it. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's a good thing that for the White House. The White House is getting overrun when they have these parties over there, like the Christmas parties. You have thousands of people going through all these different rooms, and they need to have a formal ballroom.
Well, people need to understand when I say this, I'm not advocating for what I'm about to say, but from a purely construction, which is the field I come out of, if you actually look at the White House, and I've gotten this from, very credible sources, you could actually make a case, and I'm not even talking about the historical significance, I'm talking about the structure of the White House, that they should tear it down and build a new one, because there's many parts of it that are dilapidated. They've had to gut that thing several times. So from a construction standpoint, what he's doing makes sense as well. But I want to play this quick video because I have to say before I play it, I'm beginning to develop a man crush on Donald Trump, man. I love this guy. I love how he's just so honest about certain things. Listen to what he says at this press conference when they're actually, I think they had the Prime Minister of Australia there at the time. But listen to what he says. Check this out. We'll come back and talk about it.
Construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh. That's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back.
As I say, Ted, I'm developing a man crush on him. He says it sounds like money to him.
Yeah, great. Like he shouldn't talk about that. Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Obama. They couldn't tell you what that sound was. They would be walking around. Biden would be walking around in the fog, which was normal. But they didn't understand what that was. That's not destruction. That's renewing and remodeling, and it'll be bigger and better.
Yeah, well, it's funny to me because the press and these hardcore leftists that are out there, they act like there's no Google out there, I mean, if you simply Google construction projects at the White House, you will see that there has been constructions and reconstruction projects over the whole history of the White House. This is nothing new. And, the East Wing itself was an add-on. And it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of historical significance in that. It was an add-on. And this is me saying, I want to disavow Ted from this. But, has anybody thought that the fact that Biden and all the stuff we heard about him, it may have been cheaper to tear it down than to clean the place, but that's just me.
Really. But again, it's not remodeling. I mean, they're taking off part of that East Wing. It's more of a new build. So it'll be updated and have all the bells and whistles of modern construction. And it's a good way of moving forward. It really is.
Yeah, well, here's
contrast that to the. I know you're going to do that right now. You're going to contrast to that thing Obama's doing.
Well, not only think about this. I think one of the reasons why the Dems are jealous about what's happened with Trump is because what have they actually built in the last 50 years? I was trying to think about it. In fact, they can't build anything, Ted. I'm going to give you a few examples. Biden spent $7.5 billion, not with a B, we do billions there, to build 8 electric vehicle charging stations across different parts of the country. 8 of them for $7.5 billion. Obama's library costs $830 million that he's building right now, and it's being sued, and it's gonna now it started $830 million, now it's $1 billion. It's behind schedule, and they're being sued. This, and then on top of this, Ted, one more, Gavin Newsom out there in California, they have they've spent $10 billion with a B dollars on a rail project, a high-speed rail project that, guess how many miles they've actually built? 22, and none of it's being used. I mean, no wonder they're jealous, because they can't build squat.
Those are all great examples of failed projects. And I would love for Trump to take the high-speed rail project over in California, because I know he could get that done. If anybody's read his book, Art of the Deal, how government was trying to redo the skating rink in Central Park for years. They're arguing about this and that. And he says, I'll take it over. This is back when he was a builder. He rebuilt that thing in months, way under budget. And so I would love for him to say, the federal government's taking over that rail project. The other thing is on this, the ballroom they're building, I don't know if you saw it, but Eric Swalwell said, we need to get a Democrat in there, because once he's in there, we need to tear down the Trump ballroom. They want to tear down. Again, they want to keep you suppressed. They're so much like the crabs in the bucket. You heard this analogy. You get one crab that's motivated. He's trying to crawl out of the bucket. The other crabs are looking at him like, where the heck you think you're going? And they pull him back down. That's what Eric Swalwell, I mean, he said that very well. We're going to tear it down because we don't want anything that Trump succeeded at, because it makes us look bad. And, vote him out of office, people. It's our right, it's our responsibility, and it's our duty to throw these knotheads out of office.
Yeah, and from a structural thing, I mean, Obama did a big state dinner there where they had to literally put up a tent and portalets, for God's sakes, at the White House, because there's not enough room for people. They can't seat but maybe 100 people in the current situation. Well, not now. And they're talking about, I mean, it's just crazy from that aspect. And then they start talking about the dignity of the White House and all. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm all for the dignity of the White House. But keep in mind, we're talking about Bill and Hillary Clinton, who she came out and talked about the dignity of the White House and all that. When, as you know how many times they rented out the Lincoln bedroom in the 2 terms they had there? Almost 1,000 times, Ted. Over 900 times they literally rented out the White House. And as Bill Maher pointed out just a week or so ago on his show, he said that, that Clinton had his own ballroom. They call it the Oval Office. I mean, the
Oral Office.
And I got to say one more. Biden literally had cocaine in the White House with his son, pretty obviously. And then they had all these people come over, and they literally had transvestite men shaking their titties out open in the White House lounge. I mean,
we're going to get censored for that word, Don.
I mean, it's unbelievable, Ted. But then they're going to turn around and say, oh, it's about the dignity of the White House. For God's sakes, I wish it really was, but there is no dignity there. JFK literally had a swimming pool built there, and they were running women in it that supposedly Jackie Kennedy was hearing them in there and saying, I hear women in there. And the head of the Secret Service at that time literally was telling her, oh, there's nothing to see here. Move along. I mean, dignity at the White House, for God's sakes, I wish there was some.
Yeah. And for Hillary Clinton
I get on a rant,
man.
I can't help it.
Yeah, you're a little worked up there, John. No, and again, we've been to every year I was there. We went to the White House Christmas ball. It's fantastic. But like you said, there's all kinds of tents put up. There's the restrooms outside, and it just doesn't bode well as a representation of the greatest nation on earth at the moment. And we want to keep it that way. This ballroom, I mean, yeah, it's big. It's going to be ostentatious, but it's needed, and it's something to do with state dinners. That dinner that Trump went to in England, it was a seating for 140 people. I forget how long that table was. We don't have anything that can do that. If you want to have where you bring in world leaders around and work on world problems, that make their nation safer. Not that I want to be a one world government, but to have leaders come over where you can solve problems and help them build their country stronger. In the process, it makes us a lot stronger. And the stronger we become as a nation, the stronger the opportunities are for people growing up. And the American dream is not dead, it's under attack. And it's the left that wants to destroy it because they want everybody equal. And people will never be equal because there's that innate thing that God put in us that says reach for the stars. There's a good example of what's going on in Cuba right now. It's the private sector is growing because it is so terrible over there that the private sector is growing against all odds. You've got all the communists over there trying to get these businesses shut down, but there's too many people that want freedom.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Ted, I've kind of calmed down while you were talking, and I do feel for people who are suffering from TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. So I have a picture I want to show that I think is an artist's rendition of what it's going to be like when the ballroom is finished and what the White House is going to look like. I want to put this up there so that people that have Trump Derangement Syndrome, this will actually make them feel better. Is it up there? Check that. Of course, that's AI. I have to do a disclaimer. But if you got TDS, that ought to make you feel better, don't you think, Ted?
Well, I think Eric Swalwell thinks that's what it's going to look like, and he wants to tear it down.
That sucker down.
It's just crazy. I mean, these people, God bless them. I don't know what happened to them. If their mother dropped them on their head multiple times or what, or didn't breastfeed. I don't know. But their thinking is just so different than what I view as what's normal for America. You're free to choose a lot of things in life, actually, pretty much everything here. And I think that's what we all have to fight to keep that.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing, share what we're doing, spread it out far and wide. Support us if you'd like to be a sponsor. That tagline, contact Freddie, because we want to expand this, educate, motivate, activate people, and pass on all the great gifts and blessings that people like myself and Captain Ted Yoho have been given. Ted, take us out.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody watching. And we just want to remind you that the things that we're talking about, the strife that's going on in America and that disruption of the Democratic Party going into Marxism, that's real. Understand that's real. And it's not just happening here. You've got people like Obama doing this in Poland and Hungary. They want to disrupt liberal democracies, and they want to bring it into authoritarianism, communism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it. And that's why it's so important that we carry this message forward. We can only do that with your help and your support. And other than that, John, I just want to wish the Gators a great game this weekend. They're playing Georgia on November 1st. And I think it's going to be in Jacksonville again. I know they're talking about moving it out of that. But let's all cheer the Florida Gators on, and we can report back from Spurrier Studios at the Gridiron Grill.
Absolutely. Peace out, everybody.
Everybody take care. God bless.